Senjobasishasinen Logius, Shasana. The skies above Bäckebo, a quiet village in southern Sweden, are calm. Farmers work their fields, unaware that a weapon unlike anything ever built by man is arsing silently toward them from 8 miles away. A faint hiss grows louder. Then, a thunderclap. A massive object slams into the forest floor, tearing through trees and earth. But there's no explosion. Only smoke, broken branches, and a crater deep enough to swallow a truck. The first witnesses are loggers. They approach cautiously, expecting shrapnel or flames. Instead, they find something that looks alien: a sleek, conical nose, burned metal panels, and strange symbols stamped in Gothic lettering. Hier ist Waffenamt Peenemünde. This was no ordinary bomb. It was a Vergeltungswaffe 2 Vengeance Weapon 2, Germany's new VR rocket. And by sheer luck, it had fallen on neutral ground, almost completely intact. The Swedish authorities quickly arrive, stunned by the wreckage. Its body stretches over 30 meters, its fins twisted but recognizable. It's unlike anything they've ever seen. Part missile, part aircraft, part mystery. Within hours, word reaches Stockholm. By nightfall, British intelligence already knows. Across the North Sea, inside the War Office in London, officers of the Secret Intelligence Service stare at a telegram stamped urgent from Sweden. The message is short but world-changing. Unexploded German rocket recovered near Kalmar. Appears to be of advanced design. The Allies had heard rumours of German wonder weapons rockets that could strike cities faster than sound. But until this moment, they had no proof. Now, for the first time, they had one. And it hadn't exploded. June Siver, Senjubasishasi. Stockholm, Sweden. Inside the British Embassy, the air is thick with cigarette smoke and tension. Major Norman Fisher of the British Air Ministry leans over a set of photographs spread across the table. Grainy black and white images show the rocket's twisted remains, its tail fins half buried in Swedish soil. "Gentlemen," Fisher says, tapping one photo, "if this is what I think it is, we can't let it stay here." The Swedes, maintaining strict neutrality, are cautious. They allow the British to inspect the wreckage, but not take it. Officially, the rocket belongs to Sweden. Unofficially, both sides know it's a race against time. German intelligence has already begun searching for the lost missile. The British call their plan Operation Big Ben. To the public, it will never exist. But behind closed doors, the mission is simple. Get the rocket, or at least its secrets, back to Britain before the Germans realize it's missing. A British technical team arrives in Stockholm under diplomatic cover. Among them is Dr. Duncan Sandys, Winston Churchill's son-in-law and head of the Crossbow Committee, responsible for investigating Germany's secret weapons. Sandys isn't just another bureaucrat. He's a man with a mandate straight from Churchill himself. Find what the Germans are building and make damn sure we can stop it. For 2 days, Swedish engineers work with the British under strict secrecy. They photograph every fragment, measure every bolt, trace every circuit. The rocket's engine, a tangle of pipes, valves and combustion chambers, is unlike anything seen before. Hydrogen peroxide drives its turbopumps. Liquid oxygen and ethanol fuel its main engine. The nozzle is made of graphite, a material few even imagined could withstand such heat. One Swedish officer whispers, "It looks more like something from science fiction." By July, the Swedes quietly agree to share the parts under the condition that it remains secret. The rocket's remains are loaded onto trucks, disguised as industrial machinery, and transported by night to the port of Gothenburg. There, British agents oversee its transfer to the Royal Navy freighter SS Empire Gripfast. As the Gripfast cuts through the fog of the North Sea, Luftwaffe reconnaissance planes search vainly along the Danish coast for signs of the missing missile. In Peenemünde, engineers are ordered to double production. The German High Command demands results and vengeance. As the Gripfast cuts through the fog of the North Sea, Luftwaffe reconnaissance planes search vainly along the Danish coast for signs of the missing missile. In Peenemünde, engineers are ordered to double production. The German High Command demands results and vengeance, because while the Allies are still studying the wreckage, London is already under attack. September parts the Senjobak searches. Early morning over London. The city hums with uneasy normalcy, buses rattle, milkmen make their rounds, and sirens remain silent. The war feels distant again. Then, without warning, a flash tears through the sky. No engine roar, no siren, no warning, just an explosion. A thunderous blast rips through Chiswick, West London, leaving a crater 30 feet wide and killing 3 people instantly. Witnesses swear they heard nothing before the impact. No bombers, no buzz of the dreaded VE flying bomb, just silence, then destruction. Within hours, British intelligence confirms what they feared most. This was not an air raid. It was a V-2 rocket, the world's first ballistic missile. Launched from Holland, it had travelled over Urbite miles, breaking the sound barrier and striking its target faster than any aircraft in history. The unstoppable weapon had arrived. Over the next weeks, more follow. Antwerp, Brussels, London. The V-2 rained down unpredictably, each one carrying a ton of explosives, each impossible to intercept. There's no siren, no defence, only the dull terror of waiting for the next one. Inside Churchill's underground war rooms, the Prime Minister listens grimly as reports come in. They're saying these are the vengeance weapons, his aide mutters. Hitler's last throw of the dice. Churchill, cigar clamped between his teeth, replies quietly, "Then we must make sure it's his last throw indeed." Unbeknownst to the public, British scientists are already studying the Swedish rocket in a secure hangar in Farnborough. The engineers of the Ministry of Aircraft Production work around the clock, reverse engineering its design. Metallurgists scrape samples from its engine bell. Chemists analyze its residual fuel, and intelligence officers trace serial numbers to the Peenemünde Army Research Center, the heart of Germany's secret weapons program. One engineer whispers to another as they stare at the disassembled nozzle. This isn't just a weapon. This is the future. The Allies realize they're facing something beyond wartime technology, something that could change humanity's reach forever. But to stop it, they need more than fragments. They need a complete rocket, and ideally the men who built it. In Allied headquarters, a new order is signed. It will lead to one of the most daring scientific hunts of the entire war. Operation Paperclip's precursor. The mission: capture Peenemunde's engineers before the Soviets do. And somewhere inside Germany, one man, the architect of the VR, is already preparing for the inevitable collapse. His name, Wernher von Braun. March Chenju Bar Cizo, northern Germany. Snow drifts across the windswept Baltic coast as Allied bombers roar toward their target. The Peenemünde Army Research Center, the birthplace of the VR. Once a fortress of innovation and secrecy, it now lies scarred from earlier British air raids. The buildings still hum with the echoes of engines once destined for the stars. Inside, Dr. Wernher von Braun, now 33 years old, stands over a cluttered desk, strewn with blueprints and empty coffee cups. Around him, exhausted engineers work in near silence. The Reich is collapsing. The Russians are pushing from the east, the British and Americans from the west. The once proud German rocket program has become a desperate salvage operation. Von Braun turns to his deputy, Dr. Walter Dornberger, the military officer overseeing the VR project. If Peenemünde falls, von Braun mutters, the Russians will have our future in their hands. Dornberger nods grimly. Both men know what that means. Whoever captures their research will control not only the next weapon, but perhaps the next century. That night, under the cover of darkness, trucks loaded with documents, engines, and half-built rockets begin rolling south toward the Harz Mountains. The operation is chaotic, improvised, but it's their only chance. Meanwhile, in London, analysts piece together the full picture. The Swedish rocket's components have already led to the discovery of new Allied countermeasures, allowing radar and reconnaissance teams to pinpoint launch sites in occupied Europe. Dozens of VR ramps are now being bombed before they can fire. The unstoppable weapon, once feared as invincible, is suddenly bleeding. By April Senjoba, Peenemünde is abandoned. Soviet troops enter the facility days later, finding a wasteland of burnt paper, twisted steel, and empty drafting tables. They search frantically for any remaining blueprints, crates, or scientists. But the core team is gone. Near the Bavarian Alps, von Braun and Dornberger surrender to American forces, handing over their remaining documents. Their decision will shape the modern world. Under what would soon be known as Operation Paperclip, both men and hundreds of German engineers are quietly transported to the United States. Their past will be buried beneath classified files. Their future, written in rocket trails. Back in London, the first Allied scientists examine the final reports from Sweden, cross-referencing them with intelligence gathered from the captured team. The realization hits them with the force of history. We've just seen the first steps into space born out of war. The V-2, once a weapon of terror, will become the foundation of human exploration. Its descendants will carry satellites, astronauts, and eventually mankind itself beyond Earth's atmosphere. But on that cold spring morning in Senjoba-si-Shuwu, all the world knows is that Germany's unstoppable weapon has fallen not to another weapon, but to intelligence, science, and persistence. The Allies didn't just capture a rocket, they captured the future.